wieners, will compete in the 50-yard trial heats. Those winners will then advance to the championship run, but until then, practice makes perfect, even if they're dog-tired.
Finally, look at this. A large pod of dolphins was spotted off the coast of Southern California. The photographer filmed the dolphins on one side of the boat just off Laguna Beach. It's estimated that more than 100 dolphins were involved in the race up the coast. The driver of the boat says the dolphins seemed super happy and says you could really feel their energy. Spectacular.
And that's this week's edition of the News Hounds Now Update.
That would be something to see. That's our time for now. Have a great weekend. Stay cool. News 3 Now at 5 starts right now.
Right now at 5, 3,000 people are still without power after fires at 2 Madison gas and electric facilities this morning. We'll have the latest on what happened and where you can go to stay cool tonight.
And Rock County officials say a simple accident caused a chemical emergency at the courthouse today.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now at 5.
And thanks for staying with News 3 Now. Governor Tony Evers declares a state of emergency for the city of Madison as well as Dane County after those 2 electric substations caught fire. That executive order was issued to provide support for the people who are still without power on an extremely hot day. Of course, at one point today, there were 13,000 outages.
It's not over yet. This all started around 7:40 this morning when the Madison Gas and Electric substation off East Washington Avenue caught fire. The second fire happened at a substation near the Cole Center on the UW-Madison campus. Governor Evers has authorized the National Guard to help out local departments if they should need it. We have team coverage tonight. Our Jamie Perez spoke with eyewitnesses who saw the smoke pouring out from those facilities.
But we start at this hour with a live report from one of our to Jamie. Let's go with Jamie Perez. We're waiting to find out where we were going there. Jamie, what's the latest?
Yeah, well, you know, with the power being out, that means no internet, no air conditioning, and for some people, work was canceled. And that was especially hard today, considering how hot it was, and so much so that people had to get out of the area just to stay safe today.
We were working, heard an explosion, ran to the windows, saw the fire, and of course then we all stood and watched it.
Laurel Randall was already hard at work when she heard the explosion that would catch everyone's attention.
We were up on 7th floor. Actually,
7th floor of this building, right?
Yes, when I first heard it and saw the fire, I was actually on 8th floor. And then I tried going back to work, got distracted again.
This was the video she took as she watched the flames engulf the MG&E building.
It was a boom, like something fell or hit the building, and the building shook.
She continued to work through the heat outdoors, but people like Tamissa Frisley-Ben wasn't able to.
I'm actually out here, out towards the west side of Madison, because we don't have power at both our apartment and at our office. I'm out here getting air conditioning and power and the internet at a coworker's house. There's about 6 of us here co-working together.
Like thousands of others downtown, the most important thing was escaping the heat and getting away from the fire. But that didn't come without some issues.
We were unable to leave with our vehicle because we have a power garage door opener in our apartment complex, so we couldn't get our car out. We had to rely on others who had transportation.
Before she left, she was able to capture this video from her 7th floor apartment.
As the transformers were getting hit with fire, just like the explosions that were happening, it was just a surreal experience. Like, you didn't know exactly what it was. Like, it kind of sounded like a car backfiring, but it definitely sounded more impressive, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Something she said she's never seen anything like before, especially happening so close to home.
We hopefully will be able to go back at some point this afternoon to get stuff for tomorrow, but we're planning on staying with friends tonight in some air conditioning just in case the power doesn't come back on.
Thousands of people are still without power here. You can see the street behind me is still closed off as police and crews here work to fix the problem for a lot of people. Police told me that this street will likely be closed for the remainder of the night until they can get power restored and get everything situated here. But of course, we will bring you more live updates throughout the evening as we get more information and as the situation progresses.
All right, thank you, Jamie.
And Rose Schmidt is also the latest from city officials. As you can imagine, local leaders have been scrambling all day long in the wake of these two fires. Rose, what's the latest?
Yes, well, Eric, we learned within the last half an hour that about 3,000 MG&E customers near the East Washington Avenue area are without power yet again. And we asked officials with the company during a news conference if they knew anything about this outage, but they said they didn't. So we are working to find out what actually caused it, and we will let you know when we do. When I asked officials with the transmission company ATC whether they could guarantee that this would never happen again, they said they couldn't because this was a mechanical issue and equipment fails. But they are testing the equipment at this time. Firefighters used foam to put out the fire this morning, and that foam has been linked to PFAS before. So it is now being tested to find out if that's the case in the foam they used today. DNR officials are also on scene to mitigate any potential hazards in the air.
Everybody saw the large plumes of smoke from the fires. Our air quality index is still in the green, but it's at the top end of the green, approaching yellow. But we think that elevated level is most likely about the weather because the smoke from the fires was very limited in duration and probably hasn't impacted air quality.
We also learned that the two substations where these two different fires happened are electronically connected. So ATC says it is likely that these fires were related. But both ATC and MG&E officials say they believe their systems are strong at this time and they are not anticipating any future issues this summer. But as I said, then we learned about that second set of outages of 3,000 customers near East Washington Avenue. So we are trying to figure out what caused that outage at this time.
All right, Rose, thank you very much.
Right now, public health officials told downtown restaurants and businesses without backup generators they had to close down. They said the extreme heat with no air conditioning would have put customers at risk. We have a full list of those businesses on our website, channel3000.com. If your power is out, the Red Cross has opened an overnight cooling center at the Alliant Energy Center. The Cole Center and several schools were open earlier today. If you need a ride to the Coliseum for the night, Madison Metro buses are establishing routes. Check cityofmadison.com/metro for that information.
And of course, we will have updates on the investigation into those fires as they become available. Stay with channel3000.com and News 3 Now for the very latest details. Now to weather. Of course, a very hot day, and probably had a role in all this. Without the air conditioning, you'd be miserable. Meteorologist Dave Caulfield on the weather patio with the latest in our first alert forecast. Dave?
It's still miserable outside right now, Eric, with temperatures still in the 90s and heat index values well into the triple digits for most of southern Wisconsin. Temperatures are still in the lower to middle 90s across southern Wisconsin, and with that humidity feeling still like 109 degrees in Madison, 114 degrees in Mineral Point, 110 degrees in Janesville. In Madison, we're looking at partly sunny skies. There's little relief on the way, at least in the short term, from this heat and humidity, with an unusually warm night ahead of us as we head into Saturday morning. Doppler track quiet across southern Wisconsin, but that is a way different story. As we head to the north, we could see a really strong bout of severe weather, and we're already seeing some severe thunderstorms closer to Minneapolis and northern Wisconsin. Heat index values will gradually drop through the triple digits into the 90s by later on this evening, but during the overnight hours, it still could feel like the 80s outside, and that could be really dangerous as we head into the overnight hours. So really not a lot of relief on the way, but I will tell you when we will get that relief, when a cold front comes through in your first alert forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, Dave, thank you. Just into the Channel 3000 Alert Center, the Dane County Medical Examiner says 47-year-old Craig Schley of Brooklyn was the motorcyclist killed in a crash on John Nolan Drive overnight. This happened around 1:40 7:45 this morning at John Nolan and North Shore Drive when an SUV collided with the motorcycle. Madison police and the medical examiner are still investigating. Police are looking for the driver involved in a hit-and-run crash in Green Bay Wednesday night. A warning, this video is hard to watch. After initially driving away, the driver gets out of the car and walks up to the victim twice before driving away again. The victim manages to crawl to the curb, and an officer arrives at the scene seconds later.
A gas leak in Stoughton has now been contained. Police say a gas line was struck during a construction project near West South Street and Monroe Street. That's just south of Main Street. Officials with Lion Energy say 30 homes were evacuated, but those people have been allowed back in now. No one was hurt. No damage was reported. The Rock County Courthouse is now reopened after a hazmat situation this morning.
Gabriella Becerra is in Janesville to tell us how a simple mistake turned into an evacuation.
At around 8:30 this morning, a worker mixed a bad combination of chemicals. Police say that the fire alarm system went off and the building was evacuated in a matter of minutes.
The incoming first-in crew identified the situation as a off-the-shelf, basically chemicals that were inadvertently mixed and off-gassed a gas that caused a pungent, irritating odor, which initiated the evacuation of the building.
Officials say there were about 300 people in the courthouse at the time. The building was evacuated in approximately 5 minutes.
I think it was just a mistake.
Janesville Fire Chief says this incident isn't uncommon.
You know, this kind of hazmat incident happens very common across the United States.
He recommends always reading labels before mixing chemicals to avoid a situation like this.
On the label, it should say what the chemical can be mixed with. So just slow down, read the label.
The perimeter of the building is reopened to the public. Officials were monitoring the area with the help of a drone.
It acts as my eyes and the chief's eyes on incident command or being in unified command so we can actually see what's going around throughout the facility.
An independent company was contracted to clean up the situation. Rhodes says the incident was not a significant hazmat emergency.
The biggest impact is really just to public infrastructure, shutting down of the courthouse, but it's not a significant problem.
The worker mixing the chemicals was brought to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Rock County Courthouse will be open on Monday. In Janesville, Gabriella Becerra, News 3 Now.
New at 5, there's a new $2 million grant program to clean up the shorelines and the waters of the Great Lakes. And the Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Andrew Wheeler announced today in Cleveland that the grants will be available to state and local governments as well as nonprofit groups and universities for cleanup programs. He said removing trash from U.S. waterways is an EPA priority. Next on News 3 Now at 5, tensions with Iran are escalating after 2 oil tankers are seized traveling through the Persian Gulf.
And there is more local news ahead. Tonight we'll hear from vendors stuck outside in the heat with no air conditioning during Maxwell Street days on State Street, plus how others are affected by the downtown power outage. That's coming up tonight on News 3 Now at 6.
And Wall Street closing the day with the Dow off 69 points. The Nasdaq loses 61. S&P dropped 18.5. We'll be right back.
A Chicago sergeant and 3 police officers are out of their jobs over the alleged cover-up of the murder of Laquan McDonald by an officer. The Chicago Police Board found the officers exaggerated the threat posed by 17-year-old McDonald in order to justify the actions of Officer Jason Van Dyke, shooting him 16 times. McDonald was high on PCP when he refused police commands. You may recall police dash cam video shows McDonald walking away from officers in the October 2014 incident. Officer Van Dyke was convicted of an on-duty murder, and a judge cleared 3 other officers of criminal conspiracy charges in a controversial ruling in January. CBS News has learned that Iran has seized 2 oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz.
It comes at a time of rapidly increasing tensions between Iran and the West. Natalie Brand at the Pentagon has the latest.
The company that owns this oil tanker, registered in the UK, confirms the ship was approached by unidentified small boats and a helicopter while traveling through international waters in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran says it seized the tanker for violating international regulations. Word of the seizure comes amid heightened tensions in the Persian Gulf. U.S. Central Command and President Trump are emphatic the USS Boxer took defensive action when an Iranian drone got too close to the ship on Thursday.
No doubt about it. No, we shot it down.
But Iran's state television claims the timestamp from the drone's video feed is proof their drone was not destroyed.
So you have no information about using a drone.
There are also new reports the Pentagon is planning to send another 500 troops to the region, specifically to an air base in Saudi Arabia. General Frank McKenzie is the top U.S. commander for the Middle East, trying to organize an international flotilla of warships to escort oil tankers in and out of the Gulf.
We believe that is an international responsibility, not a United States responsibility, but the United States is very happy to be part of the solution.
Leaders from both countries say they don't want war, but Friday President Trump issued a new warning.
We hope for their sake they don't do anything foolish. If they do, they will pay a price like nobody's ever paid a price.
The president has said his red line is the loss of an American life. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the Pentagon.
The owner of the British flag tanker says it has not been able to contact any of the 23 people on board.
Let's get a look at your first alert weather now with meteorologist Dave Caulfield joining us. Dave?
Well, Eric, it is still oppressively hot and humid outside across southern Wisconsin. And this evening, really, there's no relief in sight. So we have alert days in the forecast for tonight and for tomorrow. Very muggy and unusually warm overnight with temperatures dipping into the upper 70s. Really, that is very, very warm, and that is not going to offer really any of us any relief overnight. A slight chance of a severe storm can't be ruled out either, but I think the better chance for possibly some more severe weather occurs tomorrow afternoon. Highs will be in the upper 80s, but it could feel like the triple digits before a cold front comes through tomorrow. Here is the current setup. The front that brought us the storms earlier on this morning has moved to the north and is helping with some severe storm development across portions of Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. Actually, a tornado watch issued until later tonight with some severe thunderstorm warnings closer to Minneapolis. We're quiet across southern Wisconsin, but we could see a pretty significant severe weather outbreak north of us into tonight and maybe even the overnight hours as well. We're watching for the possibility of maybe a few thunderstorms overnight, but really not looking all that optimistic. I think a lot of that activity is staying to the north, so we're pretty quiet right now. But that has not been the case over the last 48 hours, and this amount of rain has directly contributed to just how humid it feels outside right now. Radar estimates over the last 2 days of 3 to 5 inches, a really wide corridor of 3 to 5 inches of rain from Viroqua through Lone Rock into northwestern, Dane County, and spots like Madison picking up about 2 to 4 inches of rain over the last 2 days or so. And that is really juicing up our dew points, and as a result, our heat index values feeling like 109 degrees in Madison right now, 110 in Janesville, and 115 degrees in Platteville. Remember, the heat index is kind of a combination of the air temperature and also the amount of humidity in the atmosphere. We have temperatures still in the lower to middle 90s at the 5 o'clock hour across southern Wisconsin. Madison on the Edgewater Skycam looking at partly sunny skies, very hazy as well with that humidity still in the atmosphere. Only a couple degrees off the record set back in 1964 of 97 degrees. So other high temperatures reaching the mid to close to the upper 90s in Boscobel and Prairie du Chien. We still do have heat bulletins, excessive heat warnings, in fact, through tonight and actually into portions of tomorrow evening before this heat finally starts to break a little bit into next week. Temperatures only in the upper 70s tonight, so stay cool and hopefully we can stay out of that humidity as well. We'll be in the upper 80s tomorrow, very warm and humid, chance of a few showers and thunderstorms. So we still should stay pretty quiet overnight, a chance of maybe a few showers and storms overnight, but I think the better chance arrives as that cold front arrives in the afternoon. Before that front gets here, again, we could feel like the triple digits. After that, we'll start to feel cooler, but maybe not less humid until we get into Sunday. A few rounds of showers and storms, and some of them could be strong to severe possible into early Sunday morning. Then we start to clear out as we head into later on Sunday. Still could feel like the triple digits at times on Saturday before that front comes through. So we're not out of the heat just yet. We're not out of the humidity just yet. Your 7 to 10 day forecast showing much better weather on the way for next week. Lots of sunshine, closer to normal temperatures and less humidity. So let's take a look at your first alert traffic update. Obviously things improving compared to where they were earlier on today downtown. We're taking a live look at East Washington and Blair Street. You can see traffic is generally moving pretty smoothly there. We still do have an accident on westbound Verona Road that is causing some delays. We're also seeing some normal afternoon delays on the Beltline. Your drive times 6 minutes right now eastbound John Nolan to the interstate with an average speed of around 40 miles per hour. And that is your first alert traffic update.
Thank you, Dave.
Next, at 5 decades after the Chernobyl nuclear plant explosion, abandoned dogs are still wandering that site. How a U.S. nonprofit is getting them the help they need. Stay with us.
Tomorrow is the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. The 1969 Apollo 11 mission officially ended the space race. An estimated 650 million people worldwide tuned in to watch Neil Armstrong's iconic spacewalk. On Tuesday, the anniversary of the launch, Armstrong's spacesuit was unveiled at the National Air and Space Museum. Today at the White House, President Trump honored Buzz Aldrin and members of Neil Armstrong's family. Decades after the Chernobyl nuclear explosion in Ukraine, the fallout is still evident.
Abandoned dogs roam the disaster zone around the power plant. CBS's Ian Lee is in London with a look at what's happening to the offspring of the pets left behind.
This is a rescue mission.
He's right here underneath this wheel.
To save the abandoned dogs of Chernobyl.
A lot of them come up close, but they don't trust you. It's like they understand what's going on.
In 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear reactor in Ukraine exploded, sending radioactive material spewing into the sky. Authorities evacuated everyone within 19 miles, but people were forced to leave their pets behind. The Soviet government sent in the military to kill the dogs, but some survived.
There's nearly 1,000 stray dogs in the zone when we started this program, and they're all descendants of these abandoned pets. Yep, got it.
For the past 3 years, the U.S. nonprofit group Clean Futures Fund has traveled to Ukraine to track down the dogs and give them medical help.
I'm not worried about, radioactivity. You turn off the lights, they're not going to glow in the dark. These dogs literally may have a piece of grass with a high radiation on them.
Vets vaccinate, spay or neuter the animals and give them a good wash before releasing them back into the wild. While young pups get a new leash on life.
She absolutely loves everyone, and she doesn't understand why people don't want to stop and pet her all the time.
Ohio native Sean Grossarth adopted Natalka last year through the Dogs of Chernobyl program.
It is by far one of the most rewarding experiences I've had.
The transition from Chernobyl to Columbus has been rough at times, but Natalka has settled into her new life with this American family. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Since the adoption program began last year, 40 puppies have been adopted by American and Canadian families.
And you can learn more at dogsofchernobyl.com. Stay with us. We'll have another check of your forecast in just a moment.
Tonight on the CBS Evening News, a deadly heat wave grips the U.S. Could this be the hottest month ever recorded on Earth? Rising tensions in the Middle East as Iran seizes another tanker. Our David Martin is traveling with the top U.S. general in the region. And Steve Hartman has the emotional farewell to a fallen war hero nearly 50 years after his death. That's tonight on the CBS Evening News.
It's going to be a hot night tonight.
Yeah, the excessive heat continuing through tonight for southern Wisconsin and into portions of tomorrow before a cold front comes through. So multiple rounds of showers and storms possible by tomorrow afternoon. But before that, temperatures close to 90 once again, relief by next week.
All right, Dave, thanks. We're back with more news in 30 minutes. The CBS Evening News is next.